Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa Life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. Spa Life stands for Seek Power Always, that power within you to do your bigger work in the world. I am so thrilled to introduce today my special guest, Janet Kraus. She is the co-founder and CEO of Peach, a lifestyle brand with a mission to help women elevate their everyday. I love this. Elevate your everyday and to thrive personally and professionally. Peach offers its own exclusive line of comfortable, which is important, and contemporary apparel of gym, work, and play through its cadre of social sales representatives who are building their mini virtual boutiques throughout the US. And I had to, before I just jump in here, I actually wore today the Lotus blue tank. I want to make sure you guys see this. And everything's so unique and fun about this line of clothing that I have to actually show you the back because it's just...
Oh yes, please show the back.
Right? The back has this great little crisscross in the back. And
for
those of you who are watching on iTunes or just listening, you'll have to go over to YouTube or Facebook to actually watch and see us so that you can actually see the looks of these because Janet also has, like, she's showing some of the pictures as well. So if you're just listening, I really invite you to not only look at the website, but also look at here where we are to be able to check it out in person. So Janet, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, Diane.
This is so fun. I love what you're doing, for women, and, you also partner because not only in the business of Peach, it's for women and elevating women in their business, but you also go another step where you actually partner with other female entrepreneurs for accessories as well. So how did that come into play?
Well, so when we identified this opportunity in the marketplace, which was, as you introduced us, for comfortable, fashion-forward, versatile clothing that spans sort of gym, work, and play, because we women live 7 lives or 9 lives in a single day. And we also recognized that when you're putting together an outfit of any kind, it is nice to be able to accessorize, whether it's a bag or jewelry. And so we, as we are uplifting women, as we are elevating women's everyday life, and as we are helping them to thrive, we are also in service of trying to create impact in the world of women in entrepreneurship. So before I explain specifically the accessory piece, I just want to give a little bit of data on women in entrepreneurship. So women start businesses at twice the rate of men. Fewer than 10% of women's businesses make it to 100,000 in revenue, and fewer than 2% make it to $1 million. And that is a travesty.
Definitely. And
so we believe that women are making incredible product out there. And if we could, in designing and bringing our fashion line to the market, why couldn't we also bring other women entrepreneurs up with us? And by selecting women entrepreneurs to be featured with our apparel collection per season, that we were living into our mission even more deeply than just through our clothing and through our stylists, who, by the way, it's really important to call out, they themselves are entrepreneurs. Right. So it was a way, we're looking for as many different threads of delivering the mission as possible.
Right. So Janet, how does a fashion apparel brand actually help women thrive?
So first of all, it starts as simply, but it's certainly more than this. It starts as simply as when you put on clothing that fits well and makes you look good and isn't so fussy that you're feeling restricted or not yourself. When the clothing does sort of live and breathe on you, that in and of itself starts the day right. We all know when we put on great, well-fitting clothing, and that's a good way to start.
Right.
But we're more than that. So I think that as you begin to understand the brand, I was a professor at the Harvard Business School for 5 years, and one of the things that we're building here is a culture-first company. I believe that culture eats strategy for lunch every day. And so we are building into the training of our stylists this incredible service culture. And we are training our stylists in methods of positive psychology. that begins with knowing who you are, knowing what your strengths are, and knowing how you can build a business based on your strengths. Right. And why that matters to the client is because when you interact with a stylist, you're feeling something uniquely different. You're in front of a woman who is exuding the benefits of thriving, and then that translates, right? It's one of those contagious things.
Right.
And the third way in which we do it is we actually do go out into the marketplace and do client facing seminars on the same material that we are training our stylists in. So little snippets of this positive psychology work that we do.
Right. And so is this what makes you unique? And how is this model relevant in today's market?
Well, I think a number of things make us unique, but yes, this is one of them. I think that when a brand lives and breathes some mission that is palpable, that is in and of itself unique and very hard to find in something else. I think that our stylists being the engine of our product delivery is also very unique. So in today's changing retail environment, in a boutique, you can go in and know the boutique owner and you can try on everything. Online, which is where we're moving to more all the time, it's a very static, unpersonal experience. And when we bring our stylist to you, that's a blend between a very convenient e-commerce experience and a service experience of a boutique. So I think the relevance also comes through in the business model, not just in the mission.
Right, right. Well, I love that you're culturally focused, because when you set that container, it's so huge about how people feel and where they're going. And it's the energy of let's do this together.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And people who describe companies that have a strong culture, it's because you are actively every day doing work to bring that culture to life. I always say that if you don't focus on the culture of your company, you're going to have a culture whether or not you define it.
Yes.
It's like a petri dish, right? The culture either becomes penicillin or it becomes the flu. So if you nurture the culture, literally, to be penicillin or to be something that is a positive thing, it will be very different. If you don't nurture it, it will be whatever it is.
Right.
And don't want to be unintentional about that.
Absolutely. Now, prior to your role at Peach, you had two roles in like high-end travel and leisure company. How did those experiences impact you starting Peach?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest in the sense of I'm just an entrepreneur. So it's kind of my DNA to want to see. I love the idea of taking an idea that doesn't exist and making it a reality. So my DNA is predisposed to want to do this. But insofar as my first two companies, which you're right, they were, I started and sold them both. They were high-end travel and leisure companies. One of the things that we were building culture first, companies then, and in the space of high-end travel and leisure, of course, the setting and the hotel property are themselves beautiful, but when you're going to spend that kind of money, you also want the service around it to be extraordinary. You want the way in which the people who are involved make you feel, right? You've had great service experience at expensive places and you've had not so great service experiences at expensive places. And so we were very intent on creating the service opportunity, this service relationship. And I think that's always been my ethos.
I love that. We talked a little bit where, my background was I worked with the police department. I was the only woman on my squad. And, you as a professor at Harvard, there's not as many women teaching in those roles, especially, you did 2010 to 15. What was the experience of being kind of a blazer in like the entrepreneurial world and teaching there and in that environment? How did those experiences, not only how did it feel in that environment, but then how did that also really fuel you working in, women dominated fields?
Well, to be honest, when I first started being an entrepreneur, I actually was very opposed to the idea of being called out as being a female entrepreneur. You may have had some of that as well on the police squad. Like, please, I do not want to be known for my gender. Please know me for my work. That would be appreciated.
Yeah.
But as I've grown and sort of mellowed and understood my role in the world, I've become more straightforward and what's the word I want? Trying to be a trailblazer. I no longer want to be the only one. I want it to be a non-issue because I want so many women to come into the entrepreneurial world and know that they can do it. Mm-hmm. I think that at HBS, I have to be honest, the school was extremely welcoming of me and of wanting there to be more of me. Because as an educational institution, right, they have good social goals as well, of trying to get equity across gender and other diversity. So I felt very welcomed there and very much supported. That hasn't always been the case in everything that I've ever done as a woman, but that was a nice place to land for 5 years, to be able to push the agenda, and for me to also, in starting this next company, have been able to build even more insight into how to build this company with women as the centerpiece, both for the client and the stylist.
Right. I love that. So I know you have a variety of topics that you speak on, and one of them is around innovation and entrepreneurship. What would you say as far as what are you sharing with people in terms of, innovation? I mean, it's like, do you wake up with these ideas that happen? Are they built upon things in your experience? As far as sometimes we think of innovation as the lucky few that, they just happen to have this genius idea that happened. How are you helping women to really look at innovation, and what ways are you teaching it?
So I think I really like to think of innovation almost in a scientific sense. Which is everything starts with a hypothesis. It starts with some combination of imagine if, and then a hypothesis. Imagine if things were like this. And so one of the most important things about both entrepreneurship and innovation is this willingness to test and fail, test and win, test and fail, test and win, iterate, iterate, iterate. And so the reality is, some people wake up one day and have the big idea. Like it's just there in all its form, and it's like on day one, it is what it turns out to be 10 years later. But most of the time, it is some evolving truth about this germ of an essence of a notion of an observation. Observation, I think, is at the middle of it. Observation, and then imagine if that observation either were more true or less true or whatever. And so getting very comfortable with, I think of them as sort of small petri dish tests that you learn what's working and what's not working. That at the end of the day, that is really what really good innovation looks like. And when you do it that way, it doesn't feel so all or nothing. Which I think reduces the level of like, I better get this right. It's really like, I better get this right enough, or I better get it wrong enough that I know it wasn't working.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you also have some very deep and fun talks as well, where you actually, happiness is one of your topics. Yes. What do you share around happiness?
Well, I think that, this goes back to the fundamental principles of positive psychology, which is a newer part of the whole canon of psychology around studying brains that are healthy and that are doing right by us, in the same way that we study our bodies and figure out what foods work for us, what exercises work for us. Your brain is the strongest muscle that you have. And so happiness is, some people, there's no question, some people are born with differing levels of their kind of set point for happiness. But it is not a static thing. You do have agency in creating joy, satisfaction, happiness in your life. You just have to practice. And so we use strengths, character strengths, as kind of the baseline of who you are, and then teach you practices about how you live into your strengths that bring you confirmation, validation, which then moves into satisfaction, which then moves into happiness and ultimately to joy, because you're being mindful of what's happening right in front of you.
Right.
And how your Eunice, how the person that you actually were just showed up on the planet being is perfect, really perfect. If you sort of quiet the itty bitty shitty committee and move into the things about you that make you already great.
Right. I think this is so important. You know, one of the things I love, you know, talking to my clients about is that what are your values? Like, what do you stand for? And how does that actually reflect in your calendar? Like, if you say that you love family, but you don't have family on your calendar, like, how is that a reflection of your life and what you're doing? And I love how you're bringing this into business about, you know, what are your strengths and what are you looking at, so that is the, you know, the experience that you get to have, and, you know, just be able to look at that in such a big way. You know, you have, you know, twin daughters that are 12, you know, how is it as a mom, you know, especially when you were younger with them, or when their children were younger, how are you having the interplay of, you know, family and business?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you called out the other sort of pillar, I think, of a healthy life. Part of it is identifying your character strengths, what makes you you. Another, as you said, is sort of, what are your values? What do you stand for? What do you want to pay attention to in your life? And making sure that you're not giving them lip service, that you're actually carving out the time for those things. And so for me, as it pertains to me personally, you know, family is surely my biggest, most important priority. And at the same time, other things matter to me too. And other things matter to me too that make me a better me, more fun me, more satisfied me, so that when I then go back and put the time into family, I show up, you know, in full bloom, right? Not like I'm sacrificing other things about me because I've made family this priority. No, and I think one of the most, I have daughters, which is wonderful, and I think one of the most important things as a mom that you can do for your children, daughters or sons, is make sure the work you're doing is work you enjoy, and make sure you tell your children when you're doing that work that you are enjoying it, because they want you to be happy. Yes. Right? Your kids want you to be happy. And I always say to them, hey guys, I'm going on a trip this week. Like when I met you, and I was like, I want to be clear, I can't wait till I come home. I can't wait till the weekend I am back, but I want to remind you, I'm going to have a really good time. I'm going to have a really good time while I'm on this trip. So when you call me at night, I'll love to tell you what cool people I met and what cool things I did. And I hope you're having a really good week too, you know, because then nobody is feeling, that's a practice of happiness, right? Is just acknowledging that what you're doing, you're enjoying, and sharing that with people. It's contagious.
Well, I think that's such an important distinction, to really enroll the people that you love in your life into what you're doing. And especially with kids, like, remember like when you were in school, like you're looking forward to like summer vacation, it was like something to look forward to. And so one of the things I love to do, you know, for myself and also with my clients, is have one of those year calendars laminated, and to always have something on there that you're looking forward to. And, you know, even like a vacation with the kids, like it's like, okay, we're going to be going to Disneyland, or, you know, maybe you're not at the point in your business where you want to take a vacation, but you could do a staycation, like, hey, here's a day where we're going to have a picnic, or we're going to go to the beach, or, you know, whatever that is, that you actually carve it out and you enroll the family into that. Then they know when you're focusing on your business, they know that something's coming up that they're involved in. And just bringing the family involved and making it more of the family business, and we get to do this together, it just keeps the energy up, and they're enrolled into your mission and why you're doing what you're doing in life.
100%. And in fact, Diane, you'll be happy to know that is a scientifically valid recommendation that you're giving people. That is part of the positive psychology. It's one of the things, which is, you know, your joy about in a moment of a thing like going to Disney lasts for precisely the amount of time that you're at Disney, but the amount that you anticipate it and engage your brain and the people involved in it in the anticipation, and then the amount of time that you savor it afterwards, and you actually talk about it and you look back on it and you identify things, you can increase the happiness of that moment by as much as 20 times.
I love that.
Anticipation and the savoring, because the moment is, you know, a week or 5 days, But you could have 3 months of buildup, and you could have years of reflection that make that whole thing that you did like massively wonderful. And so it literally, like, they're like, the things about happiness are little, that's so obvious, but when you hear that it's scientifically true, you're like, cool, I'll do that more.
I love it. And then it makes it yummy, right? Things to look forward to. It's just so great. I love that.
In fact, when we were leaving Punta Cana this past week, my kids already were like, okay, so we need to write down all the things that we had fun doing so we can go back and talk about them and get all the pictures organized. But we're also going to, you know, do this in 4 months. Let's start talking about that. Like, I've trained them that this is sort of part of it, and no, you know, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that's so great. And, you know, this really falls into how you're consciously designing your life. I mean, so many people live their life by default where they just let things happen. I know you've got some visions for women, and, you know, what are some of the things that you're consciously creating?
Oh yeah, conscious design, intentionalness, I think, is another part of the practice of thriving. You know, if we take ourselves and our brains out of the agency, you know, the agency that the life that you're leading is a choice that you're making, it's easy to do because life is really busy and there are so many, there's just so many things on the to-do list, that I think it's really important to take a step back and say to yourself, no, it's my life and I only have one of them, and I'm going to create the life I want to lead. That in and of itself, that one thing that you describe is probably at the heart of this this mission of thriving, which is kind of asking yourself, what, you know, where do I want to take this life, and what strengths and what values do I have that I'm going to organize around, so that as I end a week or I end a month or I end a year, it's not about whether you checked it all off the list, because trust me, I set goals for myself that I only get 50% of the way towards, or maybe I didn't even touch, but that's okay, because I am invested enough in my life to put down what I hope will happen. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but it's okay because a lot of it does when you put it down, right? But I did read, interesting, this is brand new information that I just read, which I really want to get your take on. Okay. I just read that when people share their goals out loud with other people, they're less likely to reach them.
I've actually heard that. I've heard that because that other people's opinion may be reflected back in a way that actually maybe doesn't support. Because sometimes our closest people aren't necessarily our allies, that they go like, well, who are you to think you could do that? And it just actually brings up all the ways of us not doing it. So I think what's important is that who you're sharing it with, and are they your cheerleaders and the people who are in with it? So I'd be curious of it, that that's just across the board, or who you're specifically choosing. Well,
there was evidence to show that mattered. And the other thing that was really fascinating about the research, and it's early research, so it's not like it's multiple, you know, it's like not 27 studies, et cetera, but also, when you say your goals out loud, for some people, the adrenaline high of having stated them makes you feel closer to completing. And so, like my daughter, when I was sharing this research with her, she's like, I get that, Mommy. I don't like to tell people my goals until I'm done, because then I know I did them. Really interesting.
Wise.
So there's a big difference between writing them down and saying them out loud, because the writing them down is the intentionalness.
Right.
The sharing them broadly, you get a high as if it's done already.
Interesting. Wow.
I know, it's kind of mind-blowing for you and I, who spend a lot of time wanting to work with people to get to manifest.
Yes.
So we need to pay attention to this theme and study it. It's interesting.
Right, because how does that come into play with like your mentors, and like setting your intention of, you know, verbalizing it and getting it out there? Do you not share it?
I think it may be more about what you were saying, which is both the who and the how many.
Right.
So if the who that you're sharing with is an accountability partner,
right,
versus just like, aren't I cool? These are my goals, right? And you get this sort of high from sharing it. I think the research may unfold to talk about when you're sharing them, is that person an accountability partner?
Right.
To make sure that your sharing them is mostly about clarifying and getting them clear and getting them into action versus just getting the kind of quick hit that I have some goals.
Right. The adrenaline aspect to it.
Yeah.
Well, and that would be a good distinction on it too, is like, so you stated the goal, but having, the plan and the action. And I think that's where the accountability partner would come in, where you can actually move towards it. And I do think it's important to have, what are the short wins along the way that can have the sustainability in it? Because sometimes when there's such a big goal, it can feel so daunting. I mean, when you look at just you building like your business and your company, I mean, you can maybe see the vision. I love how you have this belief around how the world should be around 50% of women who are CEOs and in those positions and moving. And that's a great goal. But if you look at where you are with it today, I mean, it can feel like, how can it get there? And what's going to happen with that? And what are the steps? And I think having some incremental wins along the way keeps it fresh, keeps it, motivating, keeps you moving towards that. How is it that you bridge that gap between those huge audacious, what they call the big hairy goals, right?
Goals, yeah.
Right? Versus the everyday that may not feel like a win. And in some cases, for entrepreneurs can feel a couple steps backwards.
Well, I think it's really interesting. I think you can kind of see this thing we're talking about, which is now coming out in the research, between people who talk big, have grandiose ideas and don't move forward, and those who talk big but also kind of layer in I don't know, always get a sense. I always talk about entrepreneurs as being, a great entrepreneur is optimistic, equal parts optimistic and realistic, and a tiny dose of paranoid. So
that's so true.
Right? I will say big things out loud, but at the same time that I'm thinking big things out loud, one of the reasons we as entrepreneurs often forget to celebrate wins is because we don't want to be in the end zone spiking the ball until it's really real, and because your fear of something's going to come up and bite me in the butt. Yeah. So you don't ever, as an entrepreneur, you have to put the big vision out there. You have to state the goal, but you also have to be really much like, and this won't happen unless this, and line up. And by the way, let's not forget that this, which is completely exogenous and outside my control, could come up and completely like end it for everybody.
Right.
So there's something about our own self-regulation on the big dream and the realism that have to kind of work together to, as you said, get to the milestones where you have the like, woo, let's keep going. Woo, let's keep going.
Yeah. Do have our own little hit, it's like,
and it's about a half a second. Like, yep, good, cool. All right, what's next? Okay, cool. What's next?
Right. Well, I know you also have some secrets around how you have the most impact in your day, and you talk about going to the bottom. Talk a little bit about that.
So that's that paranoia. Right. So fear is the most crippling emotion for us as humans, right? Fear and shame are the things that kind of take us down. And in an entrepreneurial setting where uncertainty is literally part of everyday life, like don't be I always say, if you're choosing between whether to be an entrepreneur or to work for somebody, decide if you prefer frustration or anxiety. If you prefer anxiety, be an entrepreneur because it's your prevailing. I turned my phone off. It is your prevailing emotion, and so I used to in the early days try to kind of push it off. Like, yep, those things could be real, but like I'm just not going to let them. And what happens when you don't rumble with the anxiety is it's still there. It's still there.
Right.
So what I often do when the fear comes and it's, got me by the throat and I'm having difficulty breathing, I just go with it. Okay, let's pretend that happens. Okay, let's do it. Let's go there. And then what happens? And then what happens? You go through each thing. Right. And then what happens, right? And then you've hit the bottom. Yep, I totally face planted. And I will get up tomorrow. And I will either do this or something else again, right? So it kind of, if this fear is trying to strangle you, it kind of strangles the fear,
right?
Because you're giving it oxygen, and then you're like, nope, you don't get any oxygen because I'm going to be good no matter what.
Right.
I tell my husband, I'm like, okay, honey, we're going to the bottom. You ready?
It's good to actually name it, for one, and also have some humor in it. I think you definitely have to have humor as an entrepreneur to be able to, move through things. And I think it's so important to actually move through that process. And really, I think that's a decision, right? That, hey, I'm going to, not even I may, right? I'm going to hit the floor at many times. You're going to hit roadblocks. Things are going to feel like, I've talked to people who are like, I feel like quitting every day, right? For different reasons. It's like, you can quit for 3 seconds and then you're back in the game. It's almost like a boxer, right? Where you just know like how many times you're going to get hit, that you're going to get back up. And if you just have the mindset that no matter what happens, I'm going to get back up, I'm going to make the next best decision, I'm going to move forward, then you're in a long game. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And I think when you give the fear a voice, what you perceived as being the game ender is really just, it's just a tackle. And you're thinking literally you've just walked into the thing that's going to end it. And you're like, yeah, no, just another tackle that I'm gonna be bruised. It's gonna hurt a little, but like, yeah, I'll get up. So these things are never as almost never as game ending as they feel in the moment. And I just found for myself that not giving them attention made them more poisonous.
I love that distinction. That's so helpful for the listeners, right? Because they think like, don't look at that, don't do, it's just the whole like be positive. And it's like, but if it's like draining your energy and taking you out, to actually, call it out there is so helpful, to have that process to use your full body, to be like, okay, here we go, and give yourself some deep breathing and kind of step out of it for a moment to really just be mindful.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. So there's the fear of the tackle, which is going to take you down, but it's also true of difficult conversations. So that's another thing that I think we all face all the time, is that conversation that needs to be had that just feels so icky that you just literally avoid it. And I have come to understand that to move forward, whenever there is a dark or difficult or not shady, that's the wrong word, conversation that I know I'm avoiding, to move right into it. And naming it. I know this is going to be a hard conversation. I need to have this with you. We both need to have this. Let's have this. Okay. Let's do it from a place of love, and let's do it from a place of like intention for both of us, because the other side, well, actually in the middle is never as bad as you could have imagined. And on the other side is like twice as good.
Right.
And so, practicing the activity of going into difficult conversations with empathy and with bravery, I think are it's kind of the same thing as the fear that will take the business down.
Right. That is so important. I mean, I had to cultivate that with the police department. I had difficult conversations every day, every call, right? And so you really have to put yourself in the person's shoes of, you're not delivering good news, right? Or things are not happening around that. And to just really be able to be in that place that, hey, do be a straight shooter, get the information, like, no pun intended there.
Yeah, I know.
Of just really getting the information there. And it's just, people want to just have the bottom line. This is where we're at, where can we go from here? Yep. And just, know that you're coming from a place that you have the best intentions, right? And
that's right.
You deliver from that place. And
right.
So, in the conversations, that's a huge aspect of it. One of the things I also think is so important too is the environments that we create. The environments, you and I were talking about your kitchen and about, what are the things in our space and what that looks like. And so, we have different experiences in whether we're in our bedroom or our kitchen or office. What is your favorite room in your home and why?
Oh, it's for sure my bedroom. I can tell you specifically why. The light is incredible, and I'm one of those people for whom light matters a ton. In fact, I just put new lighting into my kitchen, which is awesome, except for that now I have to change all the lighting in my house, which is not as awesome. But my bedroom has big, big, big windows, and I have this chair, and I have next to it a table, and I work most of the time in my office, but when I'm not working on my office, that chair, somehow I have made that chair in that space like sacred, big thought chair.
I love it.
And I think just the energy around it, when I sit down in that chair and it allows me to work without interruption. But because of the shape of it, I don't know, and the color of it, I don't know. I feel like I'm in my happy place. Everybody
should have a magic chair.
I have a magic chair. Everybody needs a magic chair. So that's one sacred place for me too. And the other sacred place for me is my shower. Oh my God.
I love my shower too. Do you just get like the best thoughts ever?
The best thoughts ever. Best thoughts ever. And I really go into the shower with an intention of not to think, and it's amazing what comes into my brain.
So your shower's a time machine.
Yes, my shower's a time machine and my chair is a magic chair. That's right. That's right.
I love it. Oh, so much.
And I do think, in support of things that I know you, Diane, advocate, is that I've done this honestly from a very young age. I don't want to suggest that I am like some super mega organized person with no clutter. That's not what I want people to walk away from this with. But whenever it is time to, whenever I was going to study for an exam, I would clean up first. Mm-hmm. I would always clean up first. And in fact, even if it was going to take away an hour of my study time, like let's say I was young and I was like, well, I'm going to start studying for this test at 8 o'clock and it's likely that it's going to take me till 11 o'clock. Even if that first hour was cleanup, it was not just cleanup. It was brain clearing. The work that I was about to do in the next 2 hours had some place to land in my mind that was freer than it was before I started the exercise. So I have always, always cleared my space before doing anything that is going to take real rigor.
Right, right. I wholeheartedly agree. You don't have to have every space, but what happens with like the clutter is that, it takes away bandwidth. It takes away, creativity. It does have that impact. In fact, one of the things I had coined was that, the clutter to drama ratio when I was on the department, that the more clutter you had, the more drama you had in your life, in your relationships, and in your emotion, and the bandwidth of what it is that you got to have and do. And, creativity craves clarity, right? Yes. And so your brain only has so much bandwidth in what it is that you're doing and how things look like. And it's huge difference to have that awareness around that. And so when you're stepping into a new creative endeavor, you want to give yourself the best advantage where you're not leaking your power into things that are just, maybe you're not even seeing in your space. So it's so important to be able to see that.
It's really interesting because right next to my desk is our lead designer's desk. And, to the untrained eye, it would look like there's a lot going on, but she is rigorous in, even though, as a designer, you have to have stuff around you, right? Like fabrics and trims and colors, but hers it is not a random chaos. There's a lot, but it is incredibly thoughtfully arranged so that it's all, to me, it's a lot of stuff, but to her, it's like a palette of wonderfulness where she keeps her fabrics, where she keeps the colors, where the trims are. In the middle of a project for time periods, it's really a lot, but it seems to always go back to a place of like, organized. If you saw it, you would be like, I'm not sure that's organized by the standard, but it is. It's definitely like an organic organized that keeps her clear.
Right, right. And that is actually another great distinction, because when you are in the creative process, you do want to bring the things in that inspire you. Maybe it's a picture, maybe it's the fabric, the certain things, because that is part of the creative process. That's not clutter. That's actually part of the creative
Yes,
process.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so it's actually very intentional. And
Yeah,
so
that's right.
the part that we get, tripped up on is when we've got several different projects that are taking your energy away, and it's not concentrated into this creative bubble that is being created.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Right. So it's a great.
Yeah, when you see other things around, you're like, oh yeah, I do have to do my taxes. Oh yeah. I do need to go to Amazon and buy.
Squirrel.
As my daughter says, lamppost.
So much. Well, I just, we could talk all day here, and I know that you have a great gift for our audiences, the ones who are very timely, that come and listen to here. And we're going to actually put into the show notes some of the details. But if you want to talk a little bit about how people can stay in contact with you and how they can take advantage of that.
Sure. So I'd love, if you like what you hear and you want to see more, to follow us on Facebook, which is with Love Peach. With Love Peach. You can also follow us on Instagram, which is with Love Peach. You can sign up for our newsletter, where yes, you will get information about product promotion, but it's also a place that you can hear about. We do a lot more in our newsletter than just product promotion. It's blog posts, and it's thoughts from me and things like that. So it's really interesting stuff. You can sign up for the newsletter on discoverpeach.com. That's our website. So those would be the three main places to connect with us.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
I appreciate all of your insights and sharing with our listeners. It's been such a pleasure having you here on the show.
I want to make sure also that, can I give them a special offer?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. So I really would love for you to give Peach a try and discover Peach. And so discover Peach. So this is our vegan leather jacket, which is amazing. It's called the Carmen. What makes it fantastic is it's shaped like a denim jacket, but it actually stretches, but it looks like leather. And lots of other cool things. So we want to give to the Spa Life audience a 20% discount. And so, so this will be available, I think, also on
we'll put this in the show notes as well.
So it's Peach Spa Life 20, Peach Spa Life 20, and we would love to have you come try out Peach and see what you think.
Perfect. Well, thank you again so much. And, it's just so great having you here. And, to our listeners, we know that your most valuable resource is your time, and we so appreciate your time here with us. And, this is a community. We've been talking about elevating women and women in business, and we do that by sharing the information. So please, whatever platform you're watching this on, please subscribe and share. And we would love for you to be part of the conversation and put in the comments, what was an aha for you? What's your takeaway? If you got onto the Peach website, what was your favorite outfit? Like, what is that, right? We want to have that feedback, be part of the conversation here with us, because it's in community that we really elevate and do the things that we do. So please tag myself, tag Janet, be part of the community here. And we just love the fact that you are joining us here and sharing it. And until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. See ya.
Bye now. Thank you.
Bye.